the absolute disaster of Canada's vaccine procurement. It never seems to end. I mean, I don't understand how they didn't think ahead. They didn't look past the lockdown. They were extremely trigger happy on the lockdown. You could argue because they don't particularly respect individual liberty, perhaps.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Canada. My name is Roberto Wakerel Cruz, and with me, as always, is Nico Johnson. Nico, say hello.
Hello, how are we? It's so good to be back. I hope everyone had a good week. Another interesting episode this week. I'm afraid it's about Pierre Poilievre. He always happens to pop up on This Week in Canada, but that's because he's the only interesting Conservative. Isn't that right, Bobby?
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with you there, but really quickly, just before we start, I want to thank our dear viewers. As you may have noticed, I have a new microphone with this new kind of robotic spring arm kind of thing, and we were able to do that with the donations that you sent in, so thank you so much, sincerely from the bottom of my heart. It was very nice to see people just help us out like that. But yes, our first story involves Pierre Poilievre, perhaps the most interesting MP in the Conservative Party today. Certainly the sharpest, and certainly one that I pay the closest attention to, because he recently, it was announced, is going to be shuffled out of his position as the finance minister. The position where basically everyone knows him from as the attack dog of the Conservative Party against Trudeau's government. Everyone seems to have really gotten to know him throughout the We Charity scandal and throughout this pandemic with all the frivolous spending that's gone on. So there's a few questions that arise from this. One of the big ones is this a demotion? So Nico, I'm gonna pitch that one to you. What do you think of the news that Pierre is going to be shuffled out from his position?
Yeah, so I'm actually not too sure what to think of it. I had the chance to sort of read up on it today. I think at the least I can say is that it's weird. The thing is, Poilievre has been doing a wonderful job as finance critic. He actually prefers the term shadow minister because I think it's cooler. But, we watch him. He goes viral. He really understands how to use media. He's one of the most well-known Conservatives, which may have something to do with it, by the way. And on top of that, I think, as I heard someone say on Twitter, he really understands his portfolio. He knows quite a bit about the economy. He can challenge an expert economist, and he could pin down Liberal ministers. The questions were so robust, and I think the guy who's going to replace him, a guy called Ed Fast, he's a Harper-era cabinet minister from British Columbia. I don't know whether he can do it. I met Ed Fast, and he's a perfectly nice guy, but I don't think he has the same sort of charisma that Pierre Poilievre has. So the Conservatives' message so far, the Conservative leadership, has said that they didn't demote him. They moved him into another portfolio. I think it's jobs creation and trade, which at the moment is more important than finance minister. And to be fair, there is an argument to be had about that. This is where the Trudeau government is screwing up catastrophically. They have ruined the economy, and on top of that, they've ruined vaccine procurement. Two things which are obviously vital. So I guess you could argue that moving Poilievre into this position is more pertinent at the moment due to the fact, of the pandemic. But why couldn't he do that under his current role? And if you're going to be really, really cynical about this, you could say perhaps the party leadership, namely Erin O'Toole, was a little bit insecure about his position. He hasn't been wonderful so far, certainly in terms of getting name recognition. He's not as good as Poilievre when it comes to making news stories, which is important, obviously. Not many people know who the guy is. And perhaps he was feeling a bit threatened. Now, I can't say for sure. It's all speculation and conjecture. I don't know. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, well, you did hit on a couple notes that I pretty much agree on. At first, when I first saw the news, I took it it struck me as a demotion until I kind of read up on it. And yes, he's moving to jobs and industry, which I think is more important right now and really ties in. It's really similar kind of fields as being the finance minister. You're right about him making the news more than Erin O'Toole. I was actually watching the Leafs and the Habs game last night, and Erin O'Toole's whole campaign right now is based on people not knowing who he is. My dad will message me and go, "What's with this Peter O'Toole guy?" I'm like, "No, that's an actor." That's Erin O'Toole is the leader, so no one knows who he is. I mean, you asked Erin O'Toole about what he would do if he's the leader instead of Justin Trudeau, and he doesn't really answer in a convincing way. Pierre Poilievre, much more competent, I think. I'm gonna put it out there like that. Is it maybe a demotion? It could be a little bit, but I think he's gonna do just as good as a job as he did in his last role, in this role. So overall, does it matter that much? I don't know. I find it weird. It's a little bit, it's a strange timing, I think, still. And I think when people see that, they read the headline, I think it shows, it strikes people as like incompetence, because you're taking a guy that's really good at something and moving him away from that job. So we're going to have to see how it kind of plays out, because I saw the gut reaction from everybody was that, why would you do this? This is a stupid move. So I don't know.
There's a few things that I want to raise as well. The party leadership, and by that I mean Erin O'Toole's staff, have been adamant, both in the stories they've leaked to the press or like the comments they've given to the press, and just on their like personal social media, that this isn't a demotion. They are very, very keen to express that. And again, if you're going to be cynical, I think that's maybe because they are slightly threatened by Poilievre. What I will say, however, we had Poilievre on the podcast a few weeks ago. Bobby and I both really like the guy. I met him a while ago, about last year. And you could tell by meeting him that he is intensely proud of his role. He's a proud guy. And, that sort of makes sense. He has an extremely important job, one of the most important jobs in Canada. And he hasn't yet said anything about it. He certainly hasn't attempted to cool the rumours about this being a demotion. He hasn't said anything on Twitter, as far as I'm aware. That makes me think that he may be not particularly keen on the whole thing. Now, secondly, Ed Fast. So Ed Fast, again, he's a really, really nice guy, but he's just a lawyer and sort of a career politician. And I don't think he's ever had anything to do with finance in the past. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it seems to me, if you have something that's going well, why change it?
Why mess with a good thing? I totally agree. Yep. There's nothing else really to add on that one. Should we move on to the next segment?
Let's move on, Bobby.
Let's move on. Transition. That was okay. Our next story involves the Prime Minister, Minister of Public Works, Anita Anand, and the Prime Minister of India, who I will simply call Modi, because I have a tough time pronouncing his first name. Nico, do you want to take a crack at?
I'll pass. Thanks, Bobby.
It's
we'll put it up on the screen. There we go.
Yes, this is Narendra Modi, and it involves a story about Justin Trudeau giving a phone call to the Prime Minister of India, and basically having to ask India for some help in the near future with vaccines, because our vaccine approach has been among the worst in developed countries in the world. It's embarrassing. It's a little sad, but there's something interesting about this that I really wanted to just touch on. And it was a video posted by another favorite MP of mine, Michelle Rempel-Garner, who I like. She's very nice. Mm-hmm. She's
looks great in a leather jacket.
Yep. And she's very good at her job, which is what I like more. She posted this video of her grilling the Public Works Minister, Anita Anand, who, may I just add, always seems like she doesn't know what she's doing. Every time I hear her speak, I'm not really compelled by her. That's really all I'll say on that one. But she's basically grilling, saying, have we even bothered calling India yet? Have we asked India? India's the production of I think, AstraZeneca vaccine is in India, even though I think it's a UK vaccine, but I think it's produced in India. But Michelle Rempel-Garner just said, have we called? Have we bothered talking to them? To which, of course, Anita Anand said, we could just roll a clip of her answer.
Has the Minister or the Prime Minister phoned Prime Minister Modi to ask if we could get vaccines from India.
Well, thank you for that question. I am in regular communication with organizations and countries around the world to secure doses of additional vaccines. Thank you.
Have we phoned Prime Minister Modi?
I personally have not phoned Prime Minister Modi, and I can't speak for anyone else in our government. Thank you.
Does the minister know if the Prime Minister has reached out to the Indian government?
I do not know. Thank you.
She doesn't know. That's frightening.
We've combed the earth or something. You're trying to, calling people. And then, as it turns out, 3 days later or 2 days later, Prime Minister Trudeau picks up the phone and gives a call to our friend Narendra Modi. Nico, what are your thoughts on Canada, a developed country, top 10 in GDP in the world with a population of 37 million, having to reach out to India for help with vaccines? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I'm personally con on the whole matter. I fit into the con camp. To pick up on one thing you said about her just being, a pretty vacuous and useless minister, it is surprising how many underwhelming ministers there are in the cabinet. I used to think that of Morneau all the way down to Bardish Chagger. They just seem fairly almost youthful in their naivety and their inability to answer straight questions. They don't even try to do it.
Yeah,
but you're
Anita
right. This is just
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that this is just another sort of line in the absolute disaster of Canada's vaccine procurement. It never seems to end. I mean, I don't understand how they didn't think ahead. They didn't look past the lockdown. They were extremely trigger happy on the lockdown, you could argue, because they don't particularly respect individual liberty, perhaps, and then didn't actually plan for when the lockdown was going to end. What does that say about the Liberal government, I wonder? But nevertheless, the fact that Canada has to ask India, which is a country, you may remember, that Trudeau famously insulted by wearing basically indigenous dress on his India trip.
And inviting an assassin to a formal dinner with the Prime Minister. Let's not forget the terrorist aspect of that India trip, one of the most disastrous diplomatic missions probably ever. I can't imagine one could go worse than that India trip. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of his prime ministership to that point, and he has upped it over and over again. I have no idea how where it's going to go from here. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're bang on. You're bang on. And it's embarrassing. It's terribly embarrassing. But there is some hope to it if you're a conservative, which is the liberal sort of establishment press in this country are beginning to take notice because, and this may be an enormous shock to them, they too cannot go and enjoy their life until the vaccine comes.
Right.
So we were beginning to see for the first time in my memory, since maybe Blackface, the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, all these, the Hamilton Spectator, these left-wing organizations criticizing Trudeau for his uselessness.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what's going to come out of that, but it has, I suspect the only thing I can say is what a mess up,
Yeah, and let's just put the tweet on the screen that old Modi tweeted when he got word from the Prime Minister. Said, was happy to receive a call from my friend, which, I mean, real loose use of the word friend there. I can't imagine they go out for beers or anything. Was happy to receive a call from my friend Justin Trudeau, assured him that India would do its best to facilitate supplies of COVID vaccines sought by Canada. And then they also agreed to tackle climate change or whatever. You know what? If India wants to tackle some climate change, go ahead. They actually are a country which just takes a river sometimes. So if they want to tackle some issues, I'm more than happy for them to do that.
Well, they're not going to. And perhaps, look, let's be frank, right? The reason why climate change can only be solved through human innovation is because India is not going to not have an industrial revolution because people in the West pollute too much. It's not going to happen. And perhaps that, I think, shows the sincerity of this call, which there wasn't much.
Can I just
already?
Can I just add one more thing? So let me just put this here, just put this out there. Canada, however, is not among the 25 countries that will be receiving AstraZeneca's vaccines in February, as we would hope that this call would perhaps accomplish, because the Trudeau Liberals are expecting the shipments to arrive in April, which is still a few months away, and that's according to the Canadian press. So I don't know exactly what this call accomplished. It seems like next to nothing. And it seems like we're going to have to wait a little longer before the government lets us go back to normal. So I just wanted to finish on that. Anyways, do you have any? Go ahead, Nico.
No, Bobby, I think you summarised it very precisely. I think the only thing I can add is that, guys, in the next election, please vote this guy out. I'm so done with this. We're not going to get out of lockdown until Trudeau goes. I've sort of concluded on that point.
Well, it's almost like this is the weird thing because it's the premiers that are keeping us in lockdown, but it's because there's no vaccines for the the premiers are kind of stuck. So, you could say, unemployment numbers are super high because lockdown in Ontario and Quebec, those are two, I guess you could say, I don't know if Quebec's conservative in the classical sense, two conservative governments. Well, I mean, we can't, they're stuck. They can't do anything because they're too afraid to say no to a doctor. Every time a doctor says keep people in their homes, Doug Ford bends over. So, I mean, they're kind of stuck. Anyway, let's move on to our next segment.
Yeah. What a beautiful transition. We're absolutely steamrolling through this episode, but this is probably my favourite story of the week. And it's because we've managed to anger China. This wasn't as a result of any government policy. It turns out it was just some sort of ambassadorial worker in the Canadian embassy in China who decided to order a Wuhan Clan top. Bobby, can you describe what was on that shirt?
Let's put a photo up on the screen. So this T-shirt is, of course, a spoof on one of the best rap groups of all time, the Wuhan Clan. But of course, it has cleverly been altered to instead say Wuhan, and the W looks like a bat, which, I mean, hilarious. That's a good joke. Clever.
You know what I find funny? That there's one guy in Wuhan who ate a bat last year who's probably just looking at this whole stuff play out and think, was that me?
Yeah, I know, because there's, timelines of when the virus started spreading and everything. And surely there was a guy, and it might have been a pangolin. We don't know. It could have jumped from a bat to a pangolin or out of a lab. And there was a guy who probably bought a pangolin because he believed it's an aphrodisiac to, make his fart stink less or whatever. And he was like, "Oh man, I felt really sick. I had a cough after that pangolin," and that was about 2 weeks before the entire world shut down. Could you imagine? There is a guy out there, by the way, most likely, who knows what he did. But anyway, so this shirt was ordered not by the embassy or the government of Canada. It was ordered by an individual that worked in the embassy in China who thought this was hilarious. Pretty ballsy move, to be honest. I would be afraid of getting murdered by the regime over there for that kind of joke. But anyway, the Canadian embassy, in response to this, sent their most sincere apologies imaginable. We would never want to offend our future overlords and probably already overlords of China. Writing, we've put this on the screen. The Embassy of Canada wishes to convey our sincere regret that the private production of T-shirts for embassy staff featuring Wuhan and the logo of a popular hip-hop group has offended the public sentiment in China.
What makes me wonder, Bobby? How come all these authoritarian regimes they can't take jokes?
They can't take a joke.
They don't find anything funny. It's just boring. I think this is why, actually, with a bit of optimism, China will never outcompete the US, at least culturally, because it's just like a better place to live in terms of humor. In terms, if you've got a language that doesn't involve going up and down on the sort of tonal scale. Yeah. We don't have a government that gets angry with us. So Perhaps there's some hope in that.
Authoritarian regimes are historically bad for comedy, rather. You can look at any communist regime in the world. I bet even Nazi Germany wasn't the funniest place in the world. You can look at, Joseph Stalin. What's that guy's name? You've seen Death of Stalin. What's his name? Khrushchev,
yeah.
when he got home from any dinner with Stalin, would tell his wife the jokes he told at dinner, and she would write down, did he laugh? Yes or no? And then if he didn't laugh, he would never repeat the jokes again. I'm sure Xi Jinping is also
something you could learn from, Bobby, actually.
Thanks. I'm sure Xi Jinping isn't the funniest guy in the world, and I'm sure this funny shirt, a Wuhan Clan T-shirt, would not make him laugh. In response to this, by the way, we had Wang Wenbin, who is the Chinese Foreign Ministry, who... Why are you laughing?
What?
Why are you laughing?
No reason. Just remember the funny joke.
Is there something about his name that made you laugh?
No.
Wang Wenbin, who the Chinese Foreign Ministry warned Canada that the T-shirts should be used as a warning to ensure some similar incidents do not occur in the future, saying the wrongdoing of the Canadian staff concerned has already caused an egregious impact and triggered strong resentment and discontent among the ordinary Chinese people.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, why can't the government just release a statement saying, like, lol or something, you know?
LOL,
Just
LOL in your face, you know? Just send a crying, laughing emoji, you know what? Just that's the statement from the embassy. Crying, laughing, 3 crying, laughing emojis, a poop emoji, and a bat emoji. Anything else, Nico?
Well, no, I think those emojis actually sound like the foreign minister's name. If you were to sort of emoji his name, it would be.
Look at my face.
What happened?
Not laughing. Did not laugh.
No.
Let's go to the outro.
Very serious.
Let's go to the outro. Well, that was a fun one, I think.
It was a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good one. Outside of the comments made by Nico about emojis being tonal or something, that was weird. But everything else I felt was really good, fun. It was a fun week. It was a news-packed week. We actually had to cut out some stories. Let's just give a big thank you to our viewers. Seriously, I want to say a big thank you to you guys who donated and were able to get me this microphone. It meant the world to me. We also were able to get some lights. We might set up a little studio sometime. Who knows? But for right now, thank you. It means the world to me. Make sure you give us a like. Check out all the links below. You can donate to us directly through a PayPal link. You can check out Google or Patreon. We have Patreon still. Don't tell our boss. And and you can give us a like, subscription. Tune in next week. Nico, anything you want to add?
No, thank you so much. And I hope you have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bon weekend. À la prochaine. Merci.
Bye-bye.